Streaming start ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ടേ.
Okay, perfect. Yeah.
Amit, the link, share me in the WhatsApp, ping me.
Just one question in case anyone of you is still here. അപ്പൊ ഇതിലേക്ക് വെബ്എക്സിലേക്ക് ആരും ജോയിൻ ചെയ്യണില്ല, ഡയറക്ട്ലി യൂട്യൂബ് ലൈവിലേക്കല്ലേ?
അതെ.
ഓക്കെ, സോ ഇൻ കേസ് അപ്പൊ ഞാൻ നേരത്തെ പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ ലൈക്ക് എന്തെങ്കിലും ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ചോദിക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ അതിന് ആൻസർ അപ്പൊ അവര് യൂട്യൂബ് ലൈവിന്റെ കമന്റ്സിൽ ഇടും അല്ലേ?
അതെ അതെ.
ഓക്കെ, അപ്പൊ അവിടെ നിന്ന് ആരെങ്കിലും വായിച്ച് പറഞ്ഞോളാം.
ഷുവർ ഷുവർ ഷുവർ.
ഓക്കെ, ഷുവർ, താങ്ക്സ്.
Okay, so we are good to go. Okay, so good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our final day of Swipe Up, a digital marketing workshop. So before we start our session today, I just want to say that we have a special surprise for you. So please stay till the end. So for today's session, we have Mr. Vijay S. Paul, communication and content strategy and blogger, who will be taking us through different ways of content creation. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Akash. So I'll get started right away.
Yes, sir. With that, we are good to go. I hand over the stage to you, sir.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So just to save bandwidth and everything, I'll turn off my video. Just let me know if you want me to turn it on, in case people want to see my beautiful and wonderful face. So thanks everyone. Thanks for joining in. I'm not sure which part of the world you are right now, but hopefully it's good afternoon, good evening, and pretty soon good night. For me, so I'm presently based out of Melbourne. So for me, it's literally Sunday, 21st of November, 22nd of November, sorry. So today, I'll just kind of talk to you about getting started with content strategy. What is content strategy? What are the different terms that kind of get confused with content strategy? Because there are actually quite a few terms. So in the meanwhile, in between, I'll definitely be asking you a few questions, like just bits and pieces here and there. So feel free to kind of just type if you're joining via YouTube Live. Please feel free to type in your answer. I'll give you enough time, and then someone from the team will kind of read the answers back to me. So to get started, before I go into anything else, my first thing is actually I would like to ask each and every single one of you a question, right? And I'll probably give you 1 minute. Feel free to go crazy. What is your content story? And what I mean by that is, so if you're sitting for this workshop, obviously means you have some affinity with content, or there is some interest in content that you have. So my question is, how are you related to content? I know, why is content important for you? So To probably give an idea, for me, in the case, I have been in the field of content for like 12 years right now. I started way back when I was doing my undergrad. So my relationship with content goes way back. 12 years professionally, and even then, ever since probably I was in first standard, I was always interested in reading and writing. Even if it was two lines, I would write poems, or even if it was one small paragraph, I would write my short stories. Okay, so my story, obviously, I'll talk about it later, but I would really love to know what's your content story. What makes you feel connected with content? What makes you feel that content is something that I'm interested in? Uh, I mean, I definitely have a bit of time. You have all the time, so I'll probably give you 1 minute. So even if it's one sentence, couple of sentences, if at least a few people can just let me know, so that I know what are your expectations when it comes to content, because this session will actually go into I would say pretty in depth. So I will be talking about content strategy in detail. So in terms of how you can build a career in content strategy, and at the same time, if you already have a basic idea about what content is or what content strategy is, then how do you build it for, let's say, as a personal brand for yourself, or even if you're doing it working with another company or for a startup or anyway. So I'll be exploring different sides of content strategy, along with even suggesting some free tools that can help you get started. But I would love to hear if at least a couple of people can share what's your content story. I'll probably just wait for a minute and see if you get any responses. So Akash, anyone, if you can just read out any responses that come, well
Yeah,
and good.
sure. So we are having responses, quite a bit of responses. So the first response is like writing short stories and phrases.
Okay.
Second response is having experience in writing for the past 2 years. So I primarily write blogs. That's from Jairam R. Prabhu. And
Oh,
the next guy is like catchy phrases from Juliana Biju. So that's all the three responses which we have received till now.
okay, lovely. So, well and beautiful. So that means definitely, even on all those things, even if it's short content. So that's what I'd like to say. Even if it's short content, even if it's so like I think Juliana mentioned catchy phrases. Even if it's a catchy phrase, even it's 2 words of copy for an advertisement, it is still content. And there is a lot of, if you have already done anything, you have written one sentence, you have written a blog, you have, I don't know, written assignments on your own. Okay, you will know that there is a lot of thought that goes into creating content. So, really happy for that. Thanks for those responses. Just I know that there are people who have had experiences. So, I mean, if you would like to take that to the next level, because when you say so, content is a very wide field, and there are still pretty, let's say, new avenues being explored in the field of content right now. So, when we say content, people usually think it's about writing content. That's it. Today I will probably, if you think that content is only about, say, writing content or just video content or something like that, probably today I'll explain to you that that's not it. That's probably 5% of it. There is a whole big ocean out there which counts for the rest 95%. So here's my story. Here's my it's so I'll be primarily I'm from Kerala, even though I'm presently based in Melbourne. Primarily I'm from Kerala. So like I was told majority of the audience is from Kerala. So it's and bits and pieces. I'll probably use a bit of Malayalam words here and there. If you are not comfortable with that, or if you're not based out of Kerala, you do not understand that, just please let know in the comments, and I'll switch to 100% English. Okay, just definitely do not want to piss off my audience. So this is my story. So yep, I'm Vijay Paul, as they already told you. So I started with my first blog in 2009. So that's when I was doing my undergrad. I was probably, I think it was my third semester or fourth. I can't recall that much, but it was in 2009. So my first blog was actually a design blog. I started my career as a graphic designer, and my first blog I would just kind of put some designs, write some tutorials for graphic design stuff I was doing, and then kind of reached a point where I was like, okay, this is well and good, going good. I should probably do more. And because I always had that affinity towards content. In 2010, I started as a freelance content writer. So I would take up some freelance jobs that would come either for other like friends of mine, or their parents who have businesses, or just direct freelance work I would get over the internet. So and then just building on from that, in 2011, I actually, right after graduating, so I built my own startup in corporate comms, and I just went on with that until 2017. In 2017, I kind of sold off my stake and then came to Australia for higher studies. So like roughly calculating, all the stuff that I wrote for myself, the stuff I wrote for my clients, I just kind of reach these numbers where I'm like, uh, till date, probably I might have written more than 400 articles, short, long form. And these, when I say 400 plus, some of them might be probably 500, 600 words. At the same time, I've also done stuff that's like 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 words. The biggest piece of content that I ever did for a client was it was actually a very detailed content for educational purpose, okay, a health related education purpose, and that, if I remember right, was somewhere around 103,000 words, so more than a lakh words. So, but because it was not done by me alone, I'm like, okay. So overall, probably I must have written 500,000 words. The reason I say that is not to say that I'm an expert on content. I still consider myself uh, not slightly amateurish. I still make mistakes. There's still a lot I have to learn. But I think that's the beauty of being in the field of content. There is always something new that you learn. You never get the feeling that you're an expert, or you never get the feeling that you know everything. Like I said, it's sorry, it's been like 12 years for me in the field of content, starting with, if I go back to 2009. Presently, in terms of my day job, I work as a content designer and communications officer with Monash University, Melbourne. And my side hustle, I'm also the founder and blogger of a consultancy slash typewriter blog called Typewriter Media, where I write and I provide consultancy about content strategy, strategic comms, and internal comms. So that's who I am professionally. So just to kind of let you know that I'm not a fraud who is trying to just sell you stuff. I'm actually not. I promise you. So that's my content story, probably. But then if I go back even before the first blog, like I said earlier, because of the stuff I was exposed to, reading and writing has been something that has been really close to me ever since I can remember. That has been a very strong point. Moving on, I would just like to, so before I go into details of content strategy, if anyone has explored, I'd say, explored the field a bit, okay, you'll probably might have heard of these other terms. That's UX writing and content design. So UX writing, content strategy, content design, all these words are used pretty much interchangeably in, let's say, in the industry right now, because UX writing, content strategy, content design, all these three words are comparatively new. So UX writing probably came up within the past 5-6 years. Content strategy probably came up in the last 8-9 years. Content design is very new, probably came up in the last 3 to 4 years. So just to kind of explain the difference, I'll just try to keep it as simple as possible so that you understand the basic differences. So UX writing is basically the words that you use for digital products. So that's like the words that you write or you read. And the major goal of UX writing is to help and guide the user. So UX writing is basically user interface writing. It's not just restricted to user interface alone, but that's what primarily it is about. So the major goal is to help and guide the user. Content strategy is slightly broader. It's more of the planning and the management of content. And when I say content, it's, in this case, it's not just text. So it can be any kind of content. That's why it's called content strategy. It's not called text content strategy. No, it's again for digital services or products. Content design, on the other hand, goes a bit more broader, I would say. So it mixes creation and strategy, and there the primary focus is about using data and evidence to design content to suit the needs and experiences of the user. So it's kind of similar in terms of one half of the definition of UX writing, but the primary thing to understand here is it content design always uses data and evidence, and it's to suit the needs of the user. So it's the needs of the user, not the wants. That is a huge term to consider here. It's about what the audience needs. It's not about what they want. So that's why content design is not just restricted to digital products. It takes into account the whole experience of of, let's say, of a user. So say, let me state an example. Mm, if the tax office, if the government tax office is considering designing the content, okay, considering having a content designer on board to help with their website or their whole digital services, the person's understanding will actually start from, okay, we are doing this tax related stuff. Where is the what's the first time that a person uh, thinks about content? Okay, so what's the first point where a person is exposed to content? And that would probably be a letter that goes from the tax office to, let's say, that customer or that no, that person. So this content designer would actually start thinking about content from that aspect. So content design primarily focuses on the experience of the user as a whole and not just restricting it to digital products or services. Another word which you definitely hear a lot is about content marketing. So now that's it's a lot of people, and when I say a lot of people, even professionals in the industry still get confused a little about difference between content strategy, and content marketing and content marketing strategy. So content strategy is something, content marketing is something, content marketing strategy is something. So content marketing strategy and content marketing is more or less the same thing. Some people just kind of use it interchangeably, but content strategy and content marketing are actually two absolutely different terms. So just in the simplest of ways to explain that, content strategy is the thought and research put into a content marketing campaign. So before you start with the content marketing campaign, there'll be some research, there will be some discussions, ideations happening. That is actually primarily content strategy. The campaign as such, so the marketing campaign as such that's implemented, that's called content. So this is kind of primarily the difference between content strategy and content marketing. Now, another easy way of explaining the definition. So, content marketing is primarily about, uh, sorry, just a moment. Akash, I kind of feel that someone is muting and unmuting regularly. There's a continuous beeping sound coming. Do you like, is it just me who is hearing that? Sorry.
Oh, okay. I guess like few participants are joining by WebEx link as well. So I will just try to off that joining option button. Not a problem.
Sure, no worries. If that's the case, just let it be, no worries. That's the case, no worries. We don't want anyone to miss out. That's fine.
Okay, fine, fine.
Thanks. So, content marketing is primarily saying it's about the what, when, and how often. So, when I say primarily, it's like, again, depends on. So, there might be a company, there might be a startup or an agency that's actually doing content strategy, but they might be defining it as, oh, we are doing content marketing, or vice versa. So, content marketing is primarily about the what, when, and how often. Okay. Whereas content strategy is more about the what, why, how, when, for whom, by whom, with what, where, how often, what next, everything. So it is the broader stuff. Content strategy, like I said, it's about that discussion, that planning phase. It's about the broader stuff. Whereas content marketing is the campaign as such. The official definition of content strategy by Christina Halvorsen, who is kind of regarded as one of the experts in content strategy, is the practice of planning for the creation, delivery, and governance of useful, usable content. So each word in this is important. The creation, the delivery, and governance of useful and usable content. So it cannot just be usable; it has to be useful also, and it cannot be just useful; it has to be useful also. So just exploring that into a little more detail. Okay, so just I hope you're still with me on this. It's still not a brain fry moment because more brain fry moments are still coming up. So when you look at content strategy as a whole, okay, as the core of it, there are four aspects. There are substance, workflow, structure, and governance, which are again divided into content components and people components. And I'll explain this. So looking at the content components, it's like I said, substance and structure. So substance is about, so whatever the content is, what's the story? Like what is the story written about? Then that brand's elements, what's the brand voice? What is the brand tone? Okay. And in case you don't know the difference between a brand voice and a brand tone, so brand voice is that singular So every brand, when you think of it, okay, or if you're someone who is more interested in advertising, marketing, content, every brand has a particular voice. Okay, so just say take the case of Coca-Cola. Okay, a well-known brand. Coca-Cola's voice is pretty casual and fun-loving. You will never hear any campaign or any content from Coca-Cola that is very formal and headfast. You will never hear that. So their voice is about being fun-loving, being casual. Okay, so voice always remains the same for a brand. Okay, tone is the slight change in emotion. So obviously, let's say if Coca-Cola is kind of giving a PR release about how their staff or how the people have been affected by coronavirus, they will obviously use their normal voice of casual, but then they'll always not do it in a fun tone. Like, yay, so many people died because of corona. They're not going to say that. So the voice remains constant. The tone, or that is the emotion, changes based on what the situation is. And every major brand in the world has proper detailed documents defining this. Every single brand. So I work with Monash University, which is like the largest university in Australia. It has probably around 75,000 students. So it is pretty big. It's more like a corporate company, a multinational company itself. Monash has got very specific uh, documentations, trainings, content, training materials, and workshops around its brand voice and brand tone. Okay, and all major companies in the world have that. When it comes to structure, sorry, Akash, did you say something? No, all good. Uh, Akash, I think some people are muted.
Yeah, it's clear, sir. You can go ahead.
Sure. No worries, no worries. Thanks. Okay. So when it comes to content structure, it's about it's more about organization. So it's about how the content is organized. Okay, how is the content categorized? So when you explore this, there are actually a lot of details that get into it. Okay, when you say content organization, it's not just about. It can be as simple as when, let's say, when a brand writes a blog post. Okay, should the paragraphs be as detailed as possible? Should the content be organized in a manner that the paragraphs are big blocks of text, or should it be like probably one or two sentence based paragraphs? It can be something as simple as that, or it can be something as detailed as whenever an outdated content is archived in one of the systems, how is that organized? Okay, so there are actually different levels when you try and when you try to learn about this, and that's what a lot of the companies do. That's where a lot of that's what a lot of content strategists do. Okay, and it's not an easy job. So I'll definitely be coming to content strategy as a career. It's kind of just touch base on what skills you need, what's the expected salary, and everything. Because end of the day, everyone wants to know, well, how much do you earn. So yes, moving on, just to kind of explain that better. So content substance fulfills the business objectives by meeting the audience needs. Again, it's audience needs and not audience wants. And the structure, it makes the content findable and usable, and it makes it easy to manage. So when we say makes the content findable, not just for the user, but also for the people who are making the content. So you might think, why would someone who has written the content need such a huge system for finding it? Just think of it in such a way. For huge businesses, or let's say again, let's say if I take the case of Monash University's website has more than 1 million pages. Okay, it has more than 1 million web pages in its website. So obviously, when it comes to that bigger structure, you need some kind of system to try to find content, and it's not as simple as just going into the search bar and just typing it out. It should be findable in every aspect. So even if, let's say, a student is trying to find something they want, they should be able to find content by not necessarily going to the search bar. It's about that user journey. Okay, a student wants to know how much is the fees they have to pay for the next semester. Okay, so it should be easy to find. They shouldn't have to go to the trouble of going to the search bar and trying to find that out. So there are a lot of details and levels that get into it. So that was the content part. This is now, when it comes to the people part, obviously there are two things. So there's workflow and there's governance. Workflow is about the roles. So in a content team, there might be a content designer, there might be a content strategist, there might be a content writer, there might be a copywriter, there might be an editor. A lot of people might be involved. There might even, depending on the company, there might even be a project manager to handle all these content roles, different people in the content role. And obviously, there will be processes, there will be tools that they use. Governance is about explaining or kind of setting the guidelines, the policies, the standards. So, for example, again, when you take the case of not just big companies, but a lot of people who are taking content seriously, along with defining their brand voice and brand tone, they also set up policies around how certain legal terms should be used or how certain terms should not be used. Okay. So, for example, one thing which I see regularly in Australia is, uh, so let's say if when it comes to, so let's say you're trying to fill out any form, okay. Until probably a few years back, when I was in India, regularly I would see just two options. So, what's your gender, male or female? Okay. Whereas ever since I came to Australia, one of the first things I noticed was, because this is not just a part of their culture, not just a part of their understanding, it's also a part of being very careful about the words they use. Uh, any form that I've seen here is not just restricted to male and female. It includes or considers the other genders also. Or maximum scenarios, it's seen as male, female, and non-binary. Okay. So some brands go with non-binary as a term. Some brands, some organizations kind of list out all the different genders that people identify themselves with. So that's just one example I'm kind of covering. And to explain this better, workflow is about creating efficiencies across different content properties. All these things I mentioned about how the content is defined, the brand voice, tone, organizing, categorizing, etc. And governance is used to empower, facilitate, and align the content with the organization's values. Just give me a moment. Sorry, I'll just have water. Thank you. So, moving on. What does a content strategist do? Now, it's a difficult question to answer because this is what I've written to. Effectively, this is what a content strategist does. There is a lot, but honestly saying, it's not very difficult. So when I think of it, I was like, okay, I have probably done 75 to 80% of this. I've not done everything. And I've been in this field for like 12 years. Content as such for 12 years, content strategy, probably lesser than that, 6 or 7. But still, a lot of these stuff, even I haven't done till now. So content strategy is a huge field. It is not, like I said, it's not binary. It's not like if you're in a content strategy role in one company, that's exactly what a content strategy person in another company would be doing. It's still new. It's still a very new field. There's still lots of vague definitions around what a content strategist does. But effectively, when you think of it broadly, the 5 things that a content strategist does is create the strategy, design the content, create the content, maintain the content, and assess the content. So effectively, this is what they do. But then within that, in terms of kind of defining or what the content lifecycle is, they might be doing a lot of other stuff too. Content strategy checklist. So again, getting into the depth of what content strategy is. Okay. So again, this again is defined by, like I mentioned, Christina Halvorsen, who is one of the content strategy experts in the world. So these are some of the major things. If you have to break it down into what a content strategist does, it's this. So content ROT. So ROT is ROT analysis. So that's redundant, R for redundant, O for outdated, and T for trivial. So some people say, if you have been, or if you try to explore the field of content, you'll see that a lot of people say, if you've created content, let it be there. Okay, even if it's outdated, even if it's old, just let it be there, because content is content. But that's actually not the right technique. If you have outdated content in whatever it is, it's your mobile app, it's your blog, it's your website, it's your CV, anywhere. outdated content at times need not necessarily be of value. It can probably produce more of a negative effect than a positive one. Okay. So a ROT analysis always needs to be done. If there is redundant content, if there is outdated content, or there is content that's trivial that probably doesn't add any value. So that's part of the assessment. There is a current style guide that kind of includes about what the brand voice and tone is. There is content readability factors. If anyone has kind of seen Microsoft Word in detail, there is something called the flesh kneading reading scale. It kind of determines how easy or difficult your content is to read and understand. So that's one of the basic scales that's taken into consideration to kind of evaluate the content readability. So the content readability skills needed for reading a research paper are definitely much higher than what's needed for probably uh, reading through Malayalam and Nova's website in English. Okay, just saying. So then there's search analytics, because you need to understand from the data that comes up what are people doing, how people absorbing your content, how are they consuming your content. Then legal requirements, as I said earlier, brands have to consider about some of the legal terms they use. And many a times, if you see the news, if you see some brands about some words they use, some phrases they have used, they kind of puts brands in trouble. Okay, because they have not, the content has exactly not gone through meeting the legal requirements. Someone kind of messed up, did not check the legal requirements of a content that needs to be published on behalf of a brand. Sorry. And just need to clarify one thing. Even though we're talking about a lot of in-depth and detailed stuff, you need to understand that it's not just huge companies who do this. Startups, even startups who have 4 employees, 3 employees, okay, or medium-scale companies who have 20 to 30 employees, or even when you probably run your own blog, a lot of these things you're probably doing it yourself, but probably on a smaller scale, or you're not thinking it in such a deep manner. Okay, but a lot of these things you are actually doing already. If you're writing one or the another kind of content, or you're creating some other kind of content. Channel requirements, obviously you need to consider channel requirements. One, just kind of make you understand, the basic thing would be, if you're trying to post something on Twitter, there's a channel requirement that a tweet cannot be more than 280 characters. So that is a channel requirement. So you definitely cannot put 1,000-character status update in Twitter. That's a channel requirement. That's again part of the content that you create. Stakeholder agenda is, in an organization, who all are the different stakeholders, from, let's say, the management, the team, the employees, to even the customers and consumers. Does this content or the content strategy meet the business objectives or the objectives for each one of them? Content owners comes to who owns the content. So it might not be as simple as the person or the staff who's written the content owns it. In bigger organizations where you have multiple departments, each content or the facts of each content might actually be owned by different teams, and these teams would need to probably work together to create a piece of content. So that's where content owners are useful or are necessary. Workflow and timelines is about how the whole content workflow takes place, how the whole systems are built around it. Metadata integrity is, it's like when you organize content, it's a high level thing. When you organize content, especially for archiving purposes, there's a lot of metadata that goes with it. One simpler way of explaining it would be, if you have your own blog, especially WordPress, every time you publish a content, I presume this is the default WordPress. You usually might be asked to add some tags, or you might be asked to, let's say, put it into a category, and there would be a publish date for that content. All those things. There's a URL for that. If there is an SEO metadata, then there's additional that's there. So all these things actually add to metadata. Anything that defines the content. Okay. It can, like I said, it can be something as simple as when was the content published for the first time. Stuff like that. Translation requirements, when it needs to be translated from one language to another. Accessibility requirements, something I actually hadn't seen that a lot in India, but I'm actually happy to seeing that a lot, quite a bit recently, is accessibility requirements. So contents need to meet accessibility guidelines. So by default, when we write content, okay, or when we create content, by default, we just kind of think that, oh, I'm writing something. Anyone who can read English will understand this. Or if I'm creating a video, oh, anyone who sees video and understands this language, they understand this. But there are there are a lot of things which at times we might not consider. Okay, so maybe say for example, I'm writing a content in English. Okay, but for majority of my audience, their first language is not English, or they do not understand English to the fluency of a native person. So for them, my content is not accessible. For a person who is visually impaired and uses a screen reader, okay, if the content I've written, or especially the technology that I use, so when I say technology, it can be on the platform that I put it. So even if it's WordPress or Medium or Blogger, anything like that, uh, so that mix of technology plus content, does it make that content accessible for that person who has a visual impairment? Because if the person is using a screen reader and the platform on which I published my content does not read it well, then that person is not accessible to my content. Or let's say instead of publishing content as text, I put it like an image like this and I just publish it. Then a screen reader cannot read it. So when it comes to accessibility, there are a lot of things that need to be considered. It's not just about visual impairment. It's also about language. If the person is colorblind, there are certain colors that you should not be using. If a person is epileptic, then there are again a lot of things that need to be considered in that. So that's actually an altogether different field. But then if you're so I'm pretty much interested in making sure content is accessible for everyone. So that's one of the areas I plan to focus on. And so I've been reading about that, trying to learn about that a lot. And that's something I really find interesting, because once you start learning or reading more about it, about how to make content accessible, you actually understand that a lot of the content that you created till date is actually not accessible to a good number of people. So even if, let's say, take the case of India, 130 billion, even if 10% of Indians have some kind of visual impairment or some kind of accessibility issues, that itself makes it like 13 billion people. Sorry, not 13 billion, what I'm saying. Sorry, 1.3 billion people cannot access your content. Okay. So that's actually, when you say it in those terms, that's actually a huge number. Sorry, India's population is 1.2 billion. I just had a brain fart moment. Sorry about that. Forget the numbers. You get what I'm trying to say. Sorry. Now, building a career in content strategy. So I think, Akash, this is where I would need your help. I just have very small two questions for the audience. And that's presuming you're still with me on this and I still haven't killed you out of boredom. So when it comes to a career in content strategy, obviously the first thing that I would like to know is what are the expected salaries? Because end of the day, passion and everything is really good. You need proper salary. You need to be paid to pay your bills, have food on the table. So my first question is just like, no need to Google anything, just in terms of your thinking, what do you think is the average annual salary? Annual salary for a content strategist in India. This is, again, let me just make this clear. To actually reach, let's say, the job title of a content strategist, it's not a fresher role. So you definitely need at least 3 to 4 years of experience to say reach the role of a content strategist. So consider you've been in the field of content for 3 to 4 years. Now you want to become a content strategist. What do you think is the average annual salary for a content strategist in India in Indian rupees? So if you can just, if you're on WebEx, just put it in the chat, or if you're on YouTube Live, just put it in the comments. And Akash or someone from the team, if you can just read out the answers to me, would be great. Let's probably wait for a few minutes. So annual salary, not monthly. Please don't tell me you expect $1.2 million or 1 crore. It's not. Just trying to understand. This is saying someone who has been in the field of content after 3 to 4 years, or maybe in 5 or 6, depending on the company, and is now in the role of a content strategist. What do you think is the average annual salary? So Akash and team, if you get any answers and you can just shout it out, would be great. Thank you.
Okay, so I guess like we are having few responses. So firstly, I will just go through the YouTube one which we have received. So
Yeah,
Arun
so I
Pradeep
can see the
has-
WebEx one. That's fine. Sorry, I can see the WebEx one, so that's fine. Just read the YouTube one. Thanks.
Okay, fine. So in the YouTube one, we have received 6 lakh from Arun Pradeep. Abhishek B has mentioned 1 lakh per month.
Okay.
So that's from the YouTube end.
Okay. So and on WebEx we have Jairam who
On the
said 10
WebEx,
lakh
I
per
guess
annum.
like Jairam R. Prabhu. Yeah, exactly. And
10,
Adira has mentioned 10, 12 to 15 lakh per annum.
10 to 15. Ashwin also has 10 to 12. So it's kind of okay. Now there is no right answer. To be very honest, there is no right answer. Okay. Depending on the company, depending on the scale of the company, depending on how many content strategies they have, if they have just one person, if they have five content strategists and they have two senior content strategists, it varies. But at least with what I can, with my research, what I understood, it varies anywhere from starting from 5 lakhs to even up to say 10 to 11. So it's very company dependent. It's very company dependent. But the lowest I saw was around 5 lakhs, 4 to 5 lakhs, and the highest I saw was around 10 to 11. Now, the one more question on similar lines. Again, this is again annual salary package. Oh, sorry. Yeah. What do you think is the average annual salary for a content strategist in US or Australia? This is because it was easier for me to explore. So, yes. Just kind of I'll give another minute over there. So again, in terms of INR, not dollars, in terms of INR. So Akash, I can read the WebEx one. That's fine. Thank you. If you can just let me know if you get any responses on YouTube, that's
Sure. I am waiting for the responses. Let's wait for to.
sure. No worries. So while everyone's thinking of this, the reason why I ask you this is also so that it kind of also you have some expectations as to okay, if I explore this as a field, this is where I stand 3 or 5 years from now in terms of financial aspects, and at the same time, just to kind of give you a global perspective, okay, that not just in India, but then if you go abroad and try exploring this field, then what's let's say the rough scale that you can expect. So Jairam has given 30 lakhs per annum. Huh, good. Ashwin 40 to 45. Good. Yadu 20 to 25. Sweet.
Okay, so we have a few answers coming from YouTube end. So Abhishek has mentioned 2 crore to 5 crore. Arjun Pradeep has mentioned 13 lakhs.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all.
Okay. So 2 crore, I'm like, I wish, like I would seriously tell, I wish someone with 3 to 4 years of experience could get a 2 crore package. I wish, but never know. Like I said, it's very company dependent. Never know. Amazon or Google might give that, but at least with my understanding, content strategists are not that lucky to get somewhere around 1 or 2 crores annually. Roughly, what I've seen is in US and Australia. So again, it's kind of converting US dollars into INR and Australian dollars into INR. Roughly, what I've seen is content strategist, someone with at least so US and Australia. I've seen that's content strategist at least takes 5 to 6 years on average. That's what I've seen. Okay. Again, like I said, take that with a pinch of salt, depending on the company. It's usually somewhere between 42 to 48 lakhs. So Ashwin, Ashwin kind of was pretty close on that 40 to 45. I'm sorry, you don't get any prize, you just get a clap. Good job, good guess. So so if it's in India, content strategist, after working for say 3 to 4 years, you can expect anywhere between, depending on the company, anywhere between 5 to say 10 or 11 lakh package. But when I say 10 to 11 lakh, there are very few companies would be giving that package. Okay, so there are ones who give, but there would be very few companies who can give that. So obviously, majority companies would be giving a 4 to 5 lakh or 6 lakh package. And when it comes to US and Australia, the lowest I've seen was somewhere around 41 lakh in terms of INR, and the highest that I saw was actually 51. But that was, I think, just because it was very specific, certain very specific company. But that's still good when you think of it. That's still good. And again, if you think that's good, well, then. So I'll do one thing, before just we kind of go for it. I know we are hard on time, but then there's no point in me just kind of brain frying you. So we'll do one thing. We'll just take a very short 3 minute break, and in the meantime, like I said, okay, I didn't say this, but in the meantime, if you feel free to add me on LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram. So let's take a short 3 minute break. So for me, I'll need to calculate. So I'll just say it in this my time. For me, it's 12:55. So I'll see you in 3 minutes at 12:58. I think a 3 minute break would be good for everyone. I'll see you in 3 minutes. I hope that's all good, Akash. 3 minutes. Well, I'm good.
Yeah, fine. That will not be a problem.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll see you in 3 minutes. And I definitely need to sell myself here. So feel free to add me on LinkedIn, Twitter, or Instagram. I'll see you. Well, I'm not sure if we have 3 minutes over, but might as well get started. So just confirming once more, Akash, can you see and hear me all good?
Yeah, we are good to go.
Perfect. Thank you. So we'll get started and again, get into the role of content strategist a little more in detail. So what are the skills needed for a content strategist? Now, when it comes to hardcore skills, not skills, qualifications. Okay, so uh, I'd say not every company has a very hardcore requirement regarding qualification. Like not everyone is like, oh, you need a bachelor's or a master's in communication, but some of them are like, oh, it's good to have that, but then sorry, but then if you have enough experience to show, then it's always well and good. And if you're starting off as a fresher, and let's say you have done your BTech, but then someone like just like me, you have done your BTech, but then you want to start a career in the field of content. Probably one good thing would be to probably have a blog, kind of show that you've worked, you've written some stuff on your own. You have probably worked as a content intern for some organization, some startup, or done some freelance content related work, stuff like that. But in terms of generic skills, in terms of mindsets, in terms of intangible skills, a few skills which I would recommend from my end would be, so one, you definitely need strategical thinking so that you can understand the business goal. Because end of the day, it's not just about simply creating any kind of content. Whatever content you create needs to kind of be in line with what the business goals of the organization are. You need to have empathy because it's always about creating content that the audience needs. So you need to understand what the audience needs. To understand what the audience needs, you definitely need to have empathy. It's about having understanding of connection and analysis so that you develop perspectives about the context of the content. It's about having good content and editorial skills because the more you know content, the more you have written content, the more you have created content, the better you will understand. If you have never created any content on your own and you're trying to get into the field of content strategy, it's like kind of saying that you're learning to swim by seeing a YouTube video. No matter how many YouTube videos you see, no matter how many books you read about how to learn to swim, you will never learn to swim unless you actually get into the water. A bit of technical skills are also good, but when I say technical, it's not about like hands-on coding skills. It's about understanding how basic technology works so that, like I said, when it comes to accessible content and all those things, you should know what is the best technology. And when I say technology, it primarily means platform. So I'll probably give an example from my personal front. So a couple of months back in my role as a content designer, I was asked to work on building a user guide for, let's say, it's a pretty huge software that the university is building, which it plans to. So I work with Monash University. It's a very huge software that the university is building to sell to other universities. So it's a online exam software. I was brought into the team to create the user guide for it, so that when it is sold as a product, it's kind of like a user guide, so that the people know how the software works. And I was brought in saying that the user guide is a PDF, and we just need to create better content for it, create better understanding of the content, and the content needs to look good. But the way I saw it, because with as part of my job and as part of what I know about content, having PDF in terms of a user guide for that particular software was not the best solution. So even though I was brought in to just beautify the PDF, I ended up giving a suggestion that it's better to have this as a web page or a mini website rather than have it as a PDF. Okay. And then obviously I was asked to do it. So I kind of built it in Google Sites. So that basic understanding of how technology works or how platforms work puts you in a better situation to take decisions around what would be the best platform, or in this case, technology, to showcase your content. Okay, because it's not just enough to create good content. You should have the right platform, the right technology, the right channel to kind of showcase it outwards. And definitely you need communications, coaching, and educating skills, because if you are in the role of a content strategist, you will definitely need to help everyone within your organization. See, one thing people don't understand, or a lot of companies fail to understand, a lot of people, a lot of professionals fail to understand, is having good content skills is similar or maybe even a notch higher than having good programming skills, having good proper technical hardcore, any other technical skills. Okay, so it's not like, oh, he's a content person, so it's just an intangible skill set. No, having a content skill set is actually a pretty niche skill set to have. Okay, so anytime you have a feeling that, oh, my expertise is content, I'm not as good as this person who knows PHP, SQL, everything. I'm not as good as him. Probably it's like comparing apples and oranges. They cannot be compared. Each has a different identity. Okay. But do understand that content itself is a pretty niche field. Okay, it's not just some tangible skill set that anyone can learn. It's always good to understand data because, like I said, especially in terms of content design, it's about using data and evidence to create create content or deliver content that is of need to the user or betters the experience. Because you need to know how numbers can transform to content. That's where data comes to a huge play. And obviously, marketing. You need to know how to sell. So yes, there are content marketers who specialize in how the content is sold, but then as a content strategist, if you at least have a basic understanding of how content sells, well and good. That's an added skill set you have. So just to give an example, here's what a job posting looks like in content strategy. So this is a senior content strategy role with Amazon that I took off today out of from LinkedIn. For this, if I think they need a 7, they are looking at someone who has 7 years of experience. So this is a senior content strategist role. Just obviously, I'm not reading it through the whole thing, but it's like it involves writing, commissioning, publishing, editing, coordinating teams, finding stories, coming up with content ideas, developing an amplification strategy, that's marketing, working with global content leads. So like you're working with a different team, in evolving channel admin and reporting. So that's like reporting all the thing, all that processes, content related processes that happen, collaborating with internal stakeholders. So these are kind of things we have covered already in terms of the skill set, because you need to work with a lot of people. You need to understand this. You need to understand what's the bigger picture. You need to understand what are the business goals, etc. In terms of basic qualifications, for this role specifically, they have said at least 7 years working in editorial roles, strategy and execution of long-form content. Written and oral skills, proven experience in multi-channel content strategy or editorial strategy, writing experience in content amplification, that's again marketing, etc. So if you just want to understand more about, okay, if you want to explore content strategy as a field, just go to LinkedIn, Naukri, Indeed, Seek, any job website, and just look at content strategy roles and see what are the skill sets or qualifications that they're looking at. Now, let's say it's more or less the last part, but the last lengthy part of the presentation is how to build a content strategy. Okay, because I told you about what content strategy is. I think I've explained that a lot many times. You might already be bored by it. Still, I explained what is content strategy, what is the difference between UX writing, content strategy, content design, what's the difference between content strategy and content marketing, what are the different components, in-depth components of content strategy. Now, in terms of building a content strategy, because that's the hands-on part, I'll just share some basic pointers, because again, if I go into detail in that, this is probably a full day workshop trying to explain how to build a content strategy. And in the end, I'll share a link with you in case you want to download a template for a content strategy. So in case you want to explore that, you want to read through, you want to understand, I'll share a link with you to download a free content strategy template, which I just kind of created. So one point to start off is you need to, so just confirming, this is about building a content strategy. So one is you need a content toolbox where you list the tools that your content team should use. So it can be free tools, it can be paid tools. It depends on the financial situation of you or your company. The business objectives. So in that you need to identify what are the overarching goals that your business is hoping to reach. So I kind of built a content. So I have a blog. Okay, if you have probably seen the footer of all the slides, which I've shown you for the past 1 hour or something, every slide I've written in huge words about my blog, typewriter.media. So when I started off with my typewriter media blog, which was somewhere around April this year, I actually built a proper documented content strategy for my blog. So even it's just a blog. It's my blog. It's where I write weekly articles about content strategy or strategic comms, and I have a weekly newsletter that goes out. But for that, in those aspects, I treated it like a business, and I was like, I need to define all this. So everything that I'm listing here, I have actually done that same even for my blog, because I need to identify this for my blog, because I'm seeing it as a proper business. I'm seeing it as a proper, let's say, a proper channel that needs a proper organization, a proper channel, a proper, I don't know, startup company, whatever you call it, that needs to have all these content objectives identified. In terms of business objectives, I identify, okay, what is my goal with the case of this startup? With the case of this blog. Okay, what am I trying to achieve with this blog? That's what I kind of defined. One of the first things I defined. Then what are the content goals? What are the content marketing goals? Because these content marketing goals will directly impact the business objectives. Audience personas. So this is something that's I would say is very important to identify, because you should have a documented strategy. Even if it's, like I said, like I did for my own blog, you should have a proper documented audience persona. So that's like identifying who your audience is. Okay. Who your target audience is, because these are the majority of where your marketing efforts would focus on. So in terms of, let's say for my blog, my focus was, I primarily have two target audiences for my blog. One is people, probably a lot of people like you, who are planning to get into the field of content strategy, who want to understand more about content strategy or strategy communications or even internal communications. Okay. So that's one of my target audience, and I have actually defined them in terms of which are the countries they are from, what is their rough age bracket, what are the fields of interest, what are the qualifications, education qualifications, what are the professional interests, stuff. So, and the second audience which I look at is digital marketing companies, because one of the consultancy that I provide is to digital marketing companies in terms of content strategy. So I join up or I tie up with digital marketing companies, and along with them, I provide, so they provide digital marketing and I provide content strategy consultancy to clients of these agencies. So these are two of my audiences that I look at. And so along with digital marketing agencies, business owners also. So I have a proper documented audience persona. I have like defined very well, this is my audience one, this is my audience two. This is what they are. So every time I write something or I create any kind of content for my blog, I know that, okay, this is the person for whom I'm writing this or I'm creating this content, but this is what the goal of the content should be. This should be the call to action at the end of the content. So audience personas should ideally be as detailed as possible. It should have demographics. It should define the demographics. Where are they from? What are the interests? What are the psychographics? That's kind of like defining. That's kind of like defining what their interests are, field of interest, the challenges they have, and how your content kind of addresses those challenges, what their pain points are, and can your content actually help them with those pain points? What drives them to purchase your product or service? Where do they find this information? What kind of content do they prefer? How do you help them? It's all these questions. So the more detailed information you have about your audience, the better you will be able to define your content strategy. So more than anything else, this is the most important thing you need to identify. Even if it is, even if it's for your blog, even if you're focusing on building your own Instagram channel, even if you're focusing on building your own YouTube channel, even if you're like, oh, I just want to become an influencer on Twitter, no matter what channel you're focusing on, no matter what content type you're focusing on, building an audience persona, sorry, just sorry. Building an audience persona is the most important thing. So that's why I kind of spend some time on. Then it's about promotional channels. What are the channels that are going to promote your content on? It's understanding, because for different types of content, not different channels. So if I'm a person who loves writing and I like to write blogs, then YouTube is not what I need to focus on. It's probably Medium or just having my own blog or newsletters. The voice and tone. So this kind of, like I explained earlier, what's a brand voice and what's a brand tone. You should define what your content sounds like when your audience reads it. The message matrix defines what is the core message your content should convey, and this is based on situation to situation. So it's like a proper metrics where the organization defines, okay, for situation or this type of content, this is what the content that we create needs to convey. So the whole process, the content creation process needs to be defined, because what is the process that your content team will use to create the content you publish, and how long do they have. So this content creation process also defines the timeline that the team or like that individual has to create that piece of content. The editorial plan, because it's not just enough that you just create content and you publish it. There needs to be a proper editorial planning process. So in some cases, if it's your own blog, you might be doing this already. You create the content, you read it through, you kind of refine it. That is the editorial process. So this is again something I said earlier. A lot of these things you might already be doing. A lot of these things you might have already done. Just that you might, when you read this, you'll be like, oh, this is a huge thing, this is a huge thing. It is not. If you're already creating some kind of content, a lot of these things you've already done. You just need to go into the professional part of it. You just need to upscale all these steps and skills. That's all. So that's edit planning. Publishing schedule is how often I'm going to publish your content. Measurement framework. Well, one of the major things in a content strategy is it's not just about planning and creating, it's also and publishing. It's also about how do you measure and report on the success. And as part of that measurement and reporting is defining your KPIs, your key performance indicators. Is what are you going to measure? It's not just important to define like this is like how you're measuring it. It's also important to define what are you going to measure your content against to indicate success. And how do you define that? Okay, this is when I'll define that my content is successful. So maybe as when you start off with your blog on, let's say, the first month, you'll be like, okay, by the end of this month, I should have at least 20 people subscribe to my newsletter. That's my KPI for this month. And you have 25. That's success. The next month, you might say, okay, I need a total of 100 subscribers. But then you say, by the end of the month, you say that you only have 80. Then you know that, okay, I did not reach my KPI. I need to take some measures to kind of push it more and reach my KPI for the next month. So, it's a continuous process. That's what I talked about earlier. It's about a content life cycle. So kind of nearing the end. So some free tools to make your life easy. So in terms of writing, Grammarly is really good. If you're just starting off, or even if you have lots of experience in writing, it's always good to use Grammarly. It's also available as a Chrome extension. So it helps you with the whole grammar, sentence structure. Hemingway app helps you make your writing more crisp, clear, helps you use more active sentences than passive ones. Co-schedules headline analyzer. Every time, obviously, if you're publishing something, especially if you're publishing an article, the headlines and titles are really important. So co-schedules headline analyzer gives you a score out of 100 about how effective they think the headline is. For building user journeys, Miro, Whimsical are some good tools to kind of build those user journey flows. For SEO, especially for WordPress, has a Yoast plugin, which is really helpful to get ideas about creating content, especially if it's a blog or a YouTube or channel or anything. Quora is a good place. Answerthepublic.com is a good place. Reddit forums are absolutely amazing. Idea organizing. I personally use Evernote a lot. So I have Evernote on my phone. So every time, even when I'm traveling or anytime I'm reading a book or an article, anytime I get an idea, I just directly write that idea in it, and that's where I organize my ideas. Trello is also something I use. If you're not used Trello, it's kind of like virtual post-it notes, roughly. That's one way, or you have an Excel sheet. Okay. Whatever works for you. Distribution, MailChimp is free until 2,000 subscribers. Hootsuite is for social media management, and Buffer is also for kind of scheduling your feeds or your LinkedIn post. For tracking, Google Analytics is definitely free and one of the best options available. Now, so what do you need to do? Next steps. So you have all this information. Okay, you have all this information. I presume at least some of it has been useful. I really hope so. Else, I feel as a presenter. So, what are the next steps? First step: read a lot. With this presentation, hopefully I really hope you at least have a few takeaways. If nothing else, at least a basic understanding of what is content strategy. Okay, at least a basic. That's all I expect of. Okay, I know there's a lot I shared, but at the end of the day, my whole focus was it should not just be something. This session should not be just something that skims through the top. Like if you just do one simple Google search and you get all this information, then there is no value for you to actually sit in this session for 1.5 hours. Okay, so that's why I kind of took the liberty of going a little in depth. So even if you understood it, well and good. If you didn't understand, it's absolutely fine. You can totally understand. It might be a lot to take in on day one. So if you're interested in the field of content strategy, UX writing, all these terms are used interchangeably and here and there, and they are related. Read a lot. And when I say read a lot, not just about this field, in general, read a lot, because I personally say reading is a really great habit. Second would be start your own blog to share your expertise or experience. It's like the most important thing that needs to be done. Okay, if you are anyone remotely in any way related to the field of content, it is kind of considered a very basic and primary thing that you should have your own blog, because else how do you show the world, or how do you show your expertise that okay, I'm a content strategist, or I'm a content professional, or I'm a communications professional? Okay, do you have a blog? I know. How do you show expertise? Okay, so that's a really good point to start, especially if majority of you like if you're in college right now, if you're students right now, this would be a really good point to start, because one big mistake that I did was I had my first blog when I was in college. Okay, but while I was in college, I kept it active for 2 years. I had a pretty good readership in my college, but then later I just stopped blogging for like 1 or 2 years while I was building my startup. So I didn't post much on my own blog. And now when I think of it, imagine the kind of audience I could have built if starting from 2009 until today, I would have blogged regularly. I would have been consistent. Imagine the kind of audience the kind of expertise I would have been able to show the world. Okay. And in terms of the audience itself, imagine the kind of audience I could have. So now with my latest blog, Typewriter, where I write about content strategy and strategic comms, which I started in April, it's like probably 6 or 7 months down the line. And this is like the most, in terms of my personal blog, the most consistent I've been. And I can already see the change. I can already see the difference in terms of readership, in terms of the number of people who read my newsletter, in terms of the number of people who read the newsletter and give feedback. Because as a writer, you need, like, your skills are valued the most when someone reads what you have written, or sees what you have created and gives feedback. That is like the best feeling as a content creator you can have. So the moment I started doing this consistently, even though I've been in the field of content for so long, the moment I started doing this consistently and started getting that feedback, where some people say, "Oh, you know what, this was really helpful, thank you," or some people say, "Oh, you know what, I really didn't like this week's article as much as the last week one. Why didn't you? You could have written about this." So, be it positive or negative, it's a confidence booster to get that kind of feedback, because as a person in the field of content, feedback is what you thrive on. You need feedback from your audience, anyone, any reader, anyone. And well, last point, self brag. Subscribe to my weekly newsletter, typewriter.media. So that's bit.ly/subscribe to TM. And well, I send weekly newsletters about content strategy and strategic comms. I really hope if you're interested, please feel free to subscribe. And then after you subscribe, you'll get an email where you will get your free content strategy template, which I created. And so I think that's mostly it from my end. I definitely do have enough time on my hand for questions and answers. So feel free to shoot anything and everything that comes in your mind. Even if it's like, oh, I have read a newsletter and it's absolutely pathetic. Even if you want to give that feedback, it's good. I promise you it's not pathetic. So, Akash, if you can like do the honors and let me know if there are any questions coming up, more than happy to stay back.
Yeah, sure. So guys, here we are up. So it's all up to you. So the platform is all yours Feel free to shoot all your questions.
So I'll just probably stay for 3 to 4 minutes. How to make money from blogs other than ads? For some reason I expected this question. Okay. How do I put this? Okay. If you already have a blog, well and good. Okay, really happy with that. But then if you're starting off with your blog and let's say you're in your first 3 to 4 years, again, just my personal opinion, I would be don't focus on the money making part yet, because then it kind of takes the whole essence, the whole meaning of that creating that content out of it. Okay. So I mean, it's definitely good to make money from blogs. I'm not saying it's bad. I mean, money anyway, it comes, it's well and good. But then if you're within the first 3 to 4 years, try spending all your energy on creating content. Okay, creating content that people value. The money will eventually come. Okay. But specifically answering your question, ad traffic, it's kind of almost dead. Okay, ad traffic is more or less dead. There are a lot of other ways that bloggers make money right now. So one is publishing on Medium. Okay, so in Medium, in case you don't know how it works, is so you have to be a paid. So if you're a paid member, you pay. I'm not very sure in terms of Indian rupees how much it is. It's $7 Australian. It's roughly $7 Australian per month. And then when you publish, and based on one, how many Medium subscribers, Medium paid members read your article, and what is the time, how much time they spend reading your article, you actually get paid based on that. Another way a lot of bloggers, what they do is after they have created a pretty niche expertise in their field, they actually create courses, they run paid workshops, they provide consultancy, they publish ebooks, then after some time they publish proper books. So there are a lot of ways. Some people even go with affiliate marketing. Some people do native advertising, where they kind of do like take paid, write paid articles. Okay, and then definitely if you're a blogger and you have writing skills, you can always do freelance work. Okay, so there are a lot of ways, and there is no specific way of saying that, oh, you can make money this way or this way. It definitely depends a lot on how what field you're in and what you're writing about or what content you're creating about. So, for example, this one blogger whom I follow, he actually has a 50-day email course where he explains in detail about uh, the whole essence of writing proper emails, especially cold emails, which can guarantee response. Okay, it's a 50-day course, and he charges for that. Okay, so the audience primarily comes from his blog readers or the people who read his articles. That's how he gets his audience. But the money he's making is actually from a different way, through his course and stuff. So once you start building a blog and once you have a decent bit of audience, you yourself will understand a lot of ways in which you can kind of turn it into a paid thing or bring some side money from. So let's say, honestly saying, from my personal thing, I don't have any ads on my blog. I don't have any paid advertising, any kind of stuff. Uh, Other than my day job, whatever I make in terms of money, that's mostly through consulting. That's mostly through paid workshops that I take for businesses and business owners, or even digital marketing stuff like that. I also provide one-on-one consultancy for content strategists who want, like, people are starting off and then kind of want some training in this field. So it's about kind of, it's not just about making money from the blog. It's a lot of associated things that come with it. One question I can see here is it worth to take Grammarly premium or free version is okay? Free version is more than enough. Like I've been working with I still use Grammarly. I've been working with the free version for, I don't know, probably more than almost 2 years right now. I think it works absolutely fine. With, I presume, the basic kind of writing and everything that we would be doing in terms of emails, documents, blog, anything, free version is more than enough. Akash, any questions on YouTube?
No, as of now, I haven't seen anything. I'm just
Sure,
waiting.
no worries. Yep, absolutely. Oh, so Jerome has said that I do write on Medium as well. Oh, lovely, definitely. Oh, Jerome, I'm also there on Medium. Just give a shout out, and I'll be I'll be more than happy to just have a read through what you're writing. I definitely, absolutely adore people. Absolutely have huge respect for people who do any kind of writing, especially if you're on Medium. I'm like, lovely. I'll just probably wait for a few more minutes if anyone has any more questions. Just one thing that came to my mind. I'll just probably talk on that. I understand majority of the audience here might be BTech students, and one huge advantage that BTech students or engineers in general have when they shift into the field of content is you already have a basic understanding of technology. When I say technology, technical stuff. Okay, you might not. I'm not saying that you understand coding, you understand how I don't know how soldering works and everything, but you do understand that technology in general. And there is actually a huge requirement in the industry for people who understand technology and can convert it into a layman's language. So they can take the complex stuff and convert it into simple, easy to understand language for the general public. Okay. So if you are a BTech student and you're planning to move into the field of content, this would you already are at a huge advantage. This I'm saying from my personal experience again, and this is something I've seen. So never feel that you are at a disadvantage if I don't have a bachelor's in comms or I don't have a bachelor's in journalism. Just remember that you never know where your strengths come from, and it's the whole process, the whole journey is about identifying where two different points connect. So Akash, if
Okay,
that's
so
it, we can
I
wind
guess
up.
like
Sorry.
yeah, sorry to interrupt. I guess like we have a question from YouTube.
Yep.
So yeah, Anusri has asked like any app suggestions for improving professional vocabulary.
App suggestions. Was it app? Did she like mobile app?
Yeah, mobile app
Okay.
or I guess like yeah.
Okay. So, wait, okay. Honestly saying, I don't know. Very honestly saying, I don't know. I've never used any mobile apps or anything. But then, any of those crossword puzzles kind of thing, any one of those things where you have to know those dictionary-based apps might be good. But other than that, the simplest and the easiest way to improve your vocabulary is just give me a moment. Is this point? Read a lot. Just read a lot. Forget mobile apps, forget anything. No, it's vocabulary is not just about it's not about a word and its meaning. That's how it's not like saying that, oh, I know this word, I know this is the meaning, this is how I use it in a sentence. Vocabulary is bettering a vocabulary is a lot is mostly about understanding the whole context in which a word or a phrase is used. And in that aspect, it's definitely the best skill or the best thing to do is read a lot. And when I say read a lot, need not necessarily be books. Even if it's just uh, going on Twitter and reading tweets of sensible tweets, not what Trump or some celebrity spits out, nothing like that. But proper informational, intellectual stuff. Even if it's something as short as that, okay, it's still reading. Go on Medium. Medium has got an absolute bunch of refined content, like ready for you to read. Okay, read on Medium. Follow blogs that you like. Okay, read English newspaper. In India, I would say it might be difficult to start off, but Hindu is definitely a good read. If you want to better the language, Hindu is an absolutely lovely read to have. Personally, definitely do not prefer Times of India. No offense, but still, I think Hindu is absolutely good if you like reading newspapers, or just read as much as you can. That's all I would say. Anything, everything. It's better to read anything rather than read nothing. That's like the simplest thing I could say. So, yeah, answering your question simply, no specific mobile apps that I can think of. Sorry.
Okay, so I hope we are out of questions. So shall we wind up?
Yep, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, fine. So thank you, sir, for being part of our celebration. It was really good to hear from your side all about content marketing. So here is a small token of love from our side.
No, thank you.
So that's from our end. So thank you, sir. Thanks a lot for joining with us.
Thank you. Thanks, Akash. Thank you, the whole team, and thanks everyone for like staying for all this time, and especially thanks to all the people who will ask the questions. So, yep, feel free to reach out if you want to ask. You have any questions regarding content strategy, or anything related to the field. And yep, thanks a lot. Lovely being here today. Thanks, Akash. Thanks, everyone.
So guys, please don't go everywhere. We have a special surprise coming for you. So now I would like to invite Mr. Agash P. Nambia, Vice Chair of IEEE Pi, Kerala section for the felicitation of our 6 days of beautiful journey. I guess like we are having a small, we cannot hear you properly.
Yeah, am I audible now?
Yeah, you're audible. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. First of all, I would like to thank our dear speaker Vijay, who has taken a fantastic. I'm quite sure that we'll be sharing the recordings if available to all the participants. You would love to check those recordings, and it would truly be insightful for you guys later too. Whatever sessions were conducted were purely refined on the like basic needs of digital marketing side. So I really hope that you guys loved it. And in case you haven't, you have great feedbacks for about our workshop, maybe regarding any of the speakers, we would love to hear you. Like the kind of sessions we had, I am pretty sure that we have already received personally much of the feedbacks from you all. We would love to hear more from you. And yeah, that's it from my side. I would like to thank everyone who's associated with this, and the volunteers, the participants who have made this 6 days workshop a real treat. So yeah, thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Agash. So that's up. So guys, are you ready for the special surprise? So here we present you something memorable.
Akash, there is small issue with the sound. Just let me know if the sound is playing.
Okay.
No, the voice is not coming. Amit, just try it now. Share by the multimedia button.
Okay, okay. Is it audible?
Amit, I don't think it is audible. I think we can share the video through the WhatsApp portal so that it can be seen by everyone.
Okay,
The
okay.
audio is not.
Yeah, I guess like we are having trouble with some audio. So shall we end our program here?
participants who are still online, we have our open mic tomorrow that is happening, and we have a small promo video of the open mic. We'll be sharing it in the WhatsApp group, so please do check it, and we would all love to have you on. It will be completely fun-based session tomorrow. We have some performers, and so do tune in if you're interested. Thank you.
So guys, get ready for the power pack session for tomorrow's night. We all hope you will be there for tomorrow's open mic session. That's all for our end. Thank you everyone for joining for this 6 days digital marketing workshop and making it a grand success. Thank you all.